What up, friends? We are live on the YouTubes, youtube.com/Robin Black, drinking coffee. This is not my normal setup. My apologies. My office and studio is over there, but I got a little old, not feeling well chihuahua. His tongue is hanging out. And when I go over there, he starts freaking out and crying and screaming and stuff. So we're gonna hang out here. I'm calling fights tonight. Today is Sunday, depending on when you watch this, and I'm commentating fights tonight. If you go to prospectfighting.com, I believe, go to my Facebook page. I've put up the link. Commentating fights tonight at Rebel Nightclub in Toronto. Last night, I was working at what up, friends? Get some comments. I was working at TSN, which is the sports network, biggest sports channel ever in Canada. It's the best. I cover the UFC for Canada. So I was covering Izzy versus Yoel Romero and Joanna against Zhang Weili. But earlier yesterday morning, I was in Los Angeles working for Bellator, and 4:30 in the morning, a car to the airport to fly 6 hours to get into another car to go out to Scarborough to work till 3 o'clock. So it's fucking crazy. And then fights again tonight. But really beautiful fights, and I'm really glad I got to see them. I'm going to just do 10 minutes here with some thoughts. We'll take questions at the end if anybody's got thoughts or questions. But there were two brilliant fights, two main and co-main. I found them both to be fascinating. In fact, the main was more fascinating. The co-main was, of course, much more filled with madness. But I will tell you, preface this, I really don't mind. We all have our own brain. Our brain perceives things the way it is through the filters of our own experience and knowledge and what we love and don't love, preferences that have been developed from a lifetime. So if when you watch that fight and put it through your own stuff, you don't like it, that's totally cool. I won't judge you or I won't try to change your mind. And if I watch that and through when I process it through my shit, I find it to be fascinating. Please don't be mad at me or try to change. Well, you can try to change my mind, but don't judge me. It's real. I really, I enjoyed that fight. So we'll talk about that one first. Why did I enjoy it? Well, I see fighting when I watch it now, and I've been studying this for much of my lifetime. Um, it is the punches, the kicks, the movements, all of those things are the physical manifestations of a psychological battle between two trained neurologies. Right? So if you watch them fighting and imagine just there's a brain and a bunch of red stuff, that's the nervous system and how it moves, that's what's really fighting at the root of the fight. Now, also, when I go to drink this coffee, that is the physical manifestation of my brain doing a bunch of shit. My brain thinks about coffee and I make a decision. On some level, it sends my arm out and I drink it. So at the root of all of these things that we watch as physical, it's a mental game. Two brains are fighting. Two very highly trained brains are battling, doing battle in that cage. So let's go real quick. As a rule, guy who's upset and frustrated, this a battle of frustrations, patience and frustrations. The guy who's most um, upset and stressed out and emotional at the end is usually the one who lost. Now, why is that so? So at the end, at the beginning, Yoel Romero's literally standing there frozen like a statue. And at the end, he's screaming that this wasn't right and that guy should have fought the way he thinks he should have fought, which would, of course, made him win or led him more likely to win, and then he would be happy. Right? So he's frustrated. When you see the frustrated guy, sorry about the shaking. This is the only way I can set this up with the old dog here today. Um, when you set it up, at the beginning, Yoel Romero is standing there, and he knows through preparation and practice, and this has been how he's fought many of his last fights, but specifically this guy even more so. If he makes Izzy attack him first or go first, as they like to say, if he makes Izzy go first, he increases his likelihood of winning. Now, what was his big shot in the first round? Um, Committed, powerful overhand left. So you make Izzy come to you, you make him attack you, and then you fuck him up with your powerful overhand left. It happened a couple times, once in the first, a couple more times in the second, and a bit in the third, and then became a little less and less. Now, bear with me, we live in a different world right now. One of those overhand lefts in the first or the second knocks Izzy out cold. We're having this conversation now, and we're saying Yoel Romero's back. It was a brilliant game plan, worked to perfection, got Izzy to come in, got him to attack recklessly, and Yoel knocked him out with a single punch. Brilliant fight by Yoel Romero. That's what would happen if Izzy did the wrong thing. Did what Yoel wanted him to do, and Yoel was prepared. Then now Yoel's the winner. So your job as a martial artist in combat, your opponent wants you to do something. Whatever that thing is, you want to do something other than that. The last thing you want to do is give him what he wants, what he's prepared for, what he has strategized and created tactics to exploit you. Yoel is standing there motionless to get Izzy to attack. Izzy, quite smartly, moves around kicking that leg. If a guy's just going to stand there for 25 minutes, he wants me to get reckless. I'll kick his leg until I get 2 rounds, 3 rounds, and then maybe he'll start attacking. If he's not that tired, I'll knock him out. And if he is tired, I'll knock him out. And if he's not, I'll keep moving. I'll frustrate him. I'll kick him. I'll get him all wound up. And at the end, I'll be the winner and he'll be mad. Right? That's what he did. That is a perfectly executed game by Izzy Adesanya. He doesn't care and shouldn't, and neither should you in any kind of situation like this, what the observers say or think. Because in the long run, all he's got to do is now he's still the champion. He fights again 4 months later and he knocks a guy out with a spinning kick and we all love him again. But if he loses this fight, the chance to do that doesn't even exist. Right? You win this fight and you move forward, and in your next 3 or 4 fights, you have big moments, right? Big moments, and people are like, wow, this guy's one of the greatest ever. But if you lose this fight, none of that entire potential future fucking splits off now. Now you lost the title in your first defense to a 42-year-old guy who knocked you out with one punch, etc. Right? You see the fork in the road? Now you're potentially the most overhyped thing. Hype train derailed. We're all fucking freaking out. Instead, you do exactly what you should do to frustrate this man, pick away 3 or 4 rounds at him, make him mad, have him freak out, have people talking about it, and then you move forward. Well, this one worked out the way it worked out, but the next one in 3 months, I'm going to have a crazy fight and people won't care about this one. But you'll still, if you're Izzy, you'll still care about it because you know this was the key to your future. There is no fucking future of Izzy Adesanya 19-0 with a title defense against Yoel Romero now going into the future if you're unconscious. So he does the right thing. He does the right thing. He's fucking brilliant. And the wrong thing is, well, they're booing a little bit. You know, I like to be a flashy guy. I'm going to go in there and roll the dice and you're unconscious. Fuck that. Fuck that. He was brilliant. So at all times, life is there's many things, but there are two primary things that are possible things to think about: the present and the future, the short term and the long term, the micro and the macro. In the micro, it's like, holy shit, fight of the night. In the macro, it's like, okay, I got to win. In 2 years from now, it'll be part of my story as I go to 20-0 against Costa with a jumping, spinning kick knockout, which would never have happened if you fucked this one up, right? This is life, man. There are lessons to be learned about how to live our lives by watching these guys. Izzy taught us one. Are we paying attention enough to see it? Are we paying attention enough to see it and to learn from it? And to see, we don't have to live. Other people's expectations do not have to change our behavior. So people are expecting it to be a certain way. Then they'll voice their displeasure during the fight. It didn't change his behavior because in the long run, you stick to your plan. You stick to your plan. Now, that's not universal either because there are times where you have to change. You have to, pivot. But in this case, the correct thing was stick to it, go through here. And in 2 years from now, when there's 4 giant, crazy finishes, let's circle back and discuss how important it was last night to win this fight and to move forward rather than to lose, right? That's life. It's life. And also, like I said, it's not just the outcome, the consequences, and the result that I care about. A fight is a dynamic between two highly trained brains. And that's what that was. One highly trained brain trying to force the younger one to behave in a way that would be risky to his future as a champion. And the younger one saying, you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Doesn't matter what the audience says. Doesn't matter what you do. I'm going to win this and move forward. Would it be cool if I could get a big highlight tonight of 50 grand? Yes. But you know what? It would also be cool is put this one behind me, have my first title defense in the bank, and then be in a position to be mind blowing as the champion in the future. He did that. So good on him. And these, again, I'm not making anything up. Everything I said there was a true aspect of how this works. Again, look at that. This is how to there are life lessons in these fucking fights with these geniuses. There are. And that's a good one. That's one to pay attention to. That's one to see. Stick with the plan sometimes. Don't fuck up your future over like somehow deviating from something because somebody's judging you. Somebody's judging, oh, I don't like this. You let's say, and I'm just throwing something out. Let's say you start an Instagram page where you want to sell Ninja Turtles fucking memorabilia. I'm just saying. Could be coffee. You start a coffee company, right? And you put up your first two things. If you continue, 3 years from now, you can have the biggest coffee company in the world. But if you get three comments that say this guy's hair sucks, this guy's eyebrows are dumb, I don't like the way he talks, and I think that he should just quit. If you do, you give up the future, the potential future of where this thing was going because of how the judgments and opinions of others. Like, don't fucking do that. Don't fucking do that. It doesn't matter what they think. It's only temporary what they think. The future will not reflect what somebody thought about your eyebrows on your first 7 YouTube videos. Let them do it. The future will not care if Izzy reaches where he's going and reaches his potential. The future will not care that he had a smart and strategic game of frustration against a 42-year-old former Olympian who knocks people out. It'll just be a part of his path. So fucking watch for that shit, my friends. There's fucking lessons here everywhere. There's lessons everywhere in this. So Joanna versus Zhang Weili. A lot of fascinating lessons in that one too. So it's the opposite. Instead of like you're trying to get me to do something, but I'm not gonna fucking do that. Instead, I'm gonna do this thing, and you want me to do other thing, but when I do the thing I want to do, you're gonna get mad and frustrated and freak out, and I'll still win. Smart, brilliant. This was the opposite. You're gonna smash me. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? Fuck that. I'm gonna smash through you. Oh, you're gonna turn it up? Okay, I'm gonna turn it up. Oh, you think you can break my jaw with your kick? Oh, I think I can break your face with my fists. That's what that one was. Um, and of course we saw the beauty in that, right? Of course we did. We all did. The vagus nerve, VEGUS, the vagus nerve gets, I believe that's how you spell it, gets lit in humans when we watch other humans fight through suffering. You know, we literally get neurologically stimulated to see that. We get inspired. It's part of our nature. And it's beautiful to see. You know, one's getting carried back to her fucking stool only in the second, and it reaches deep. And there's metaphors out the ass for this, deeper and deeper, looking for more, thinking she's done, and then realizing she isn't. Rejecting the idea that she can't continue. Both of them are doing that all the way to the end, and then at the end, three people who didn't fight tonight, and probably most haven't fought at all, and most don't know that much about it, but they want to. You know why a lot of judges are there? Because they want to contribute. They don't want to be good or bad judges. They just want to try to help. They want to do their best job they can. So for the most part, you got three people. Now they're tasked with you tell me who won that fight. That hurts. It hurts me to see. They both won that fight. They both won that fight. That sucks. I feel for Joanna today. But if it went the other direction, nothing would have changed. Like that's another lesson here. Sometimes, man, it's not about like, you know, so it's again almost the other lesson. And these things are all true. They're all parts of learning, right? One allowed Yoel to move on, or allowed Izzy to move on to a future that is unknown, but still continues on this path because of it. And the other one, Joanna, the one judge, one round changes the feeling that she has today from celebrating with her people, and I know a lot of her people. These are wonderful people, but instead she's sad and down and feels defeated and think of that as one human being just judging just a couple little bits one way or the other. Doesn't change the fight. Mostly what happened in that fight was they both fought ways that coaches will tell you not to fight. I'm doing certain things. They're kind of working, but I'm also being hit. And so are you. And so the answer would be we need to make adjustments. We need to change this out. But the answer that our hearts and minds and emotions came up with, you and I, Joanna and Weili, or vice versa, was fuck this. I'll go harder. I'll go harder. I'll push through it. I'll push through it. I'll push through it. Oh, I can't see. Push through it. Something's wrong with my face. Okay, just fight it. And that's beautiful. Dogs are getting freaked out. It's a beautiful thing. Of course it is. You know, I, God, I love my job. But a lot of my job and what big part of my specialty is, so I was just working with Bellator for a week, and I'm working with them again next week. Of course, part of my specialty is like breaking down things. If you go to my Instagram, there's 1,000 breakdowns. Some of them are technical. It's this kick, it's this punch. But in fights like this, it isn't that. It isn't that at all. Just because we do that doesn't mean that's the story. There was some hard right hands that land on Joanna straight down the pipe. Why is that? Well, that's one of her strongest punches. She's committed to it because she's trying to force her way through, and Joanna's in front of her. I mean, we can get into the technical all we want, but it's the emotional and it's the essence is what's making that happen. One little detail that I think you might find really interesting is when you look back at it, you will see the two big punches that land right in the middle of Joanna's forehead that cause her to swell. And this may not be related, it may be, but both of them you will see this beautiful twist at the end of that punch. It may have something to do with the swelling. It may not. Joanna swelled before. It's the swelling is fluid under skin, between skin and bone fluid, and it just puffs up, right? That's what that is. So I don't know that little twist on the end as it lands on the forehead is part of it, but it could be. Again, it's happened before, so it could be something just in her biochemistry, just in her biology that makes her, predisposed to that. Um, but it's a neat thing. Also, why is that punch twisting at the end when we're 4 rounds into a fight, you're exhausted, you're mentally exhausted. That's your body reflecting the training. That's how she's been trained to throw with that technical nature to that punch in that way. And they sometimes they call it greasing the grooves, where you look at a gymnast do that thing over and over. It's like fuck. It's like listening to the same song on record, only physically. It's like, how can they move exactly so similar all the time? That's what greasing the grooves are. You train your body, your brain, your body, your nervous system, all of it to act in a particular way. That's why your coaches are so detailed when they're training you technically, is for most of us, those details degrade as we get tired and neurologically damaged and beat up and we slow and our bodies our technique starts to degenerate. Not that you saw it last night, not these two. They were they are incredible martial artists. They're inspiring martial artists, but so is Izzy to me. And not that Yoel isn't, but Yoel was beaten psychologically, in not the normal way, not the way we think of when Nate Diaz beats somebody psychologically. He was outthought. And that's beautiful too. It's inspiring too. That kind of patience, being willing to put up with judgment and other people's expectations and the reactions of the audience and be able to do what's right for you in the long run, that's admirable too, as he did that. But these two women pushing each other to that degree and then continuing through it, really feel for Joanna. She's a very sweet human being for a little fucking killer. So I feel bad for her. But I feel good for Weili. I mean, shit, for the rest of your life, I, I was in my very first fight, my very first pro fight. I took a real shit kicking. Like my face was fucked for like, I don't know, 10 days. I had a cut on my eyeball, um, like a cut on the ball, my eyeball, my nose was broken. I had a lot of damage. And I wonder, I was old too. My first fight I was 39, but I wonder if later it made me less capable of pushing through it because my body was like, you know where this is going. That's not mine. That's not your choice. It's not you going, but your body, like the knowing nature of your flesh and bone maybe makes you, because I fought with much more panic after that. And I wonder if that's why. Whereas other greater humans than I in that way, are able to go back and say, what you did, you now know you can do and even more. And maybe on some level, I believe that too because of the extreme abuse that I took. But in other ways, maybe my body's like, you're not necessarily meant for this. You're meant for talking about it and thinking about it and analyzing and combing over it thousands of times to find something fascinating to show somebody else. You're not meant to be in those, and most of us are not. And the reason a Joanna versus Weili or a Carlos Condit versus Robbie Lawler or any of these are so special is because when these rare individuals who have that special nature, that ability to do what all of us cannot, and we can't for the most part. And that's not easy to say, It's not easy to take. It's not easy to accept. But by believing it and accepting it, that today you could not handle the fight that they had. I could not. And none of us watching this could, unless we happen to have Carlos Condit watching or Cub Swanson or somebody. These guys do watch my stuff sometimes. But the rest of us cannot. That's good to know, because wherever we are, if we know in truth where we are, we can learn. We can add, we can improve ourselves, we can become to endurance and train our mental strength. We can learn about the reality of where we fit into this universe, and then find ways to become bolder or stronger or braver. And that can be done, and it is done, but it starts with the reality of where you are. But we watch those people and we marvel. It's like, look what they did. We can't do that. We can't fight like that. We can't fight like Joanna fought last night, or like Weili fought last night. We also can't fight. I couldn't fight the way Izzy did. That's an incredibly strong psychology, to do what is necessary despite the judgment of others. Very fucking strong. I have some of that in me. I'm lucky to say, because people make fun of my shit every day. The way I look, the way I dye my hair, and that doesn't bother me. It's you start to realize it's a reflection. Why is the audience booing? They're not judging Izzy. It's a reflection of their frustration. Their frustration comes from not understanding. It's not really about him. Why do people make fun of my hair? It's not really about me. They're looking at somebody doing something that, not everybody does. And there's some elements of it. Yeah, but he's got dumb hair. You just don't let those things bother you. If you're Izzy, if you're in a fight like that, if you're in an aspect of your life that's like what Izzy was facing last night, when in a dangerous Yoel who's trying to make him live in those 25 minutes the way Yoel wants him to live, which will result in his death. You live the way Yoel wants you to live tonight, you will die. Now, metaphorically, hopefully, but you will. So you have to live your own way, despite the judgment of others, booing and hissing, and going on the internet and saying this guy sucks now. Irrelevant, and you make it irrelevant. You live another day, independent of the judgment of these people, and then you live another day to make new work, and the new work, they'll love you again. And when they do, it undermines that love a little bit, because you realize it's temporary. You realize how temporary it is. The judgment of others is, both positive and negative. And the good part is the negative is temporary. Somebody says you suck on the internet. Yeah, 20 minutes later, they might feel bad about it. They were just expressing themselves. Their family is sick today, or they lost their job. It's not that. It's not really them. But as a result, when somebody tells you they love you, or that you're the best, Izzy, or bro, I love your breakdowns, or whatever, on some level, that can be temporary too. That's one of the things that is beautiful about a relationship of years and maybe decades of, fighter and fan, or creator and audience, or whatever. Is over time you meet these people that you have relationships with. They're fans of your work for years and years, and you should give back to them, and that's what you do, and that's what Izzy will do, right? Uh, so somebody said, "I love your hair, bro," and you too. Thank you, thank you. This is a wonderful fucking thing, this game that I'm doing. I'm studying martial arts. I just fucking travel around the world studying martial arts, being excited to discover little truths about it. I'm looking now at primarily my interest now is the metaphorical lessons that we can learn about life. I'm still interested in how to check a low kick, but I've been doing that for fucking 40 years. I'm a 50-year-old man. To which somebody would be like, bro, you're a 50-year-old man. Why do you dye your hair? It's like, kind of, I dye it now because I like it and my wife likes it. And the fact that other people don't reinforces to me I'm doing it for me. So people, you look ridiculous. I'm like, if that's how you think I look and I still do what I want to do, that's probably means I'm doing it for the right reasons. But yeah, I'm fucking traveling around analyzing martial arts. Last week I was in LA. I worked with Jay Glazer on Bellator Presents The Dose, which is our monthly show. It'll come out in about 10 or 12 days. And I did a bunch of breakdowns. And of course, breaking down the tactics and the strategies and the techniques are a part of it. But it feels a little behind the journey to me, to just go and go, look, this guy tried a single, but this guy elbowed him. We're all seeing that now. You don't have to do. You don't have to. That's not why I fought 9 times and then I've been studying martial arts since I was 10 years old. Was to tell you how to check a low kick. You don't give a fuck how to check a low kick. What did Joanna do and why did she do it and why? Why were they capable of it and what did we learn from it? I think that's the next level. In doing that, we still have to explain how and why you throw a punch with a twist at this point, and how and why moving in space causes somebody to attack you, and how you trap them and create scenarios in which you exploit their choices and their decision making. That's all part of it still. But I feel like that's old. I also feel like to some degree anybody can just go up on take some footage and say, look, that guy threw a low kick and he threw a right hand. It's like it's right there. Um, Studying martial arts, training it every day is not about figuring out how to throw a punch. It's about figuring out what it means when those humans are able to do the things that they do, and what that could mean to the rest of us. I gotta go. I'm commentating fights tonight. I will. I don't have the actual link here. I will put it up on my Twitter a couple of times today. If you want to watch, it's probably $15 maybe for the stream. Killer, wonderful fights. Um, yeah, Tony Laramie is in the main event. He's something you have to see. He's about 120. He's about 5'4", and people are like, "Oh yeah, no, I don't like flyweights and bantamweights." This guy's a little thug. This guy's a little Tony. He's a thug. He bullies people, and he beats the fuck out of them. So I think you might like him. There's some other great fights. Crew Joe Tipping is one of my coaches. I will get the gift of commentating one of my coaches' fights tonight. I got to work hard to make sure that. I'm just going to interrupt myself here. Joanna didn't get off the center line. We were just saying it's like it in these moments, our judgment of a sporting play that we've heard other people say, or if we do train ourselves, that's it's not really that's not that's not the thing. Like we can't judge their choices because their choices are not actual choices. Not like, well, tonight this is what you did wrong, which because what they did is a reflection of weeks, months, and mainly years and decades of programming. Their bodies are just doing tonight what they got free to do. They're not thinking. This is a big one, and this undermines. So there are lots of people who will call themselves MMA analysts, and they didn't fight, and in many cases don't even train martial arts. And so, what's the flaw there? Now, why? And this is what's happening in where people just will watch Dominic Cruz and start talking like him and then kind of think that's analysis. You can't become a doctor by watching doctors. You have to become a doctor by doing doctor shit. So the big thing that's undermining this ability, and the big thing that if you've never fought or done high levels of martial arts, that you will never connect to. You can hear and then repeat, but you'll never connect to. And that is when we're like, oh, this guy made a mistake, or this guy isn't very good at that, or that guy's top game, is a little limited. It's like those are just judgments. They're judgments made by observers who are not experts, and then most of us are not experts. This is what I do for a living for a decade. I've studied martial arts for 40 years. I resist considering myself an expert. I resist it because the whole point to learning more stuff is assuming I don't really understand what's going on. I want to understand it on the front end of understanding, but know that this is not what's happening. The way I see it, even if it's on the front end of it, using all the science and knowledge and feeling and art that we can do, that if I had 20 more years to study it, I would understand what I'm missing today. Right. And to do that, you have to resist judgment and opinion. And I know that sounds tough for a lot of people. And again, this is a useful aspect of life. Is the longer I know we are all entitled to our opinion. And when somebody says, dude, don't draw a conclusion on this. Resist having an opinion. People say, but I have a right to an opinion. You do, but it's a trap. By that right to an opinion, if you use it immediately, if you throw the card out and you form one, it's a fucking trap. Now you have one. You don't have all the information. You have almost none. We have almost no information about anything. If you really think about it, our limited knowledge, although humans are fragile creatures that feel the need to know things and to like have some certainty, there is no certainty. We don't know shit. We don't know shit about the universe. Not compared to if we live another 1,000 years, what we will know. That means we don't know a lot. That means when you form an opinion or you draw a conclusion, you're doing it with very limited information. Then you will defend it. Then it is now your opinion. I now have it and I'm now keeping it. And it prevents you from learning. So when we say this guy wasn't very good at that, or this guy did this wrong, or this guy's top game is very limited, they don't have any of this, we're just full of shit. That none of that's true, and we're missing a lot of the truth about how this is happening. These guys are not, you know, Yoel Romero did not like make a mistake or execute a bad game plan. That was the only fight that night in those moments his brain was capable of having. That was the fight he was capable of having, and that's why I'm not trying to say, talking about where Joanna's head is isn't the a part of it, but it's such a surface part because what's happening is a lifetime of training and preparation set her up in a situation where for 29 minutes she did as little actual thinking, as cognitive thinking as possible, so that she could then express the training of a lifetime. So, and to a degree, in rounds 3 and 4, when your coaches say something, they can adjust that training and how it's going to be deployed in those moments. But then they go out there and they just fucking fight, and it happens again. And that is what that is. The that was wrong is pointless. The this is this because of this allows us to think about the future. Again, that's in life. I don't care if you're talking about Apple or Trump or my dog or you want to not coffee, it doesn't matter. Saying this is wrong, this is good, this is bad limits our ability to think about the future. If we say, what is this and what's the possible reasons this is happening, that gives us a fucking path. Right. And so in this case, these guys just go in, and when they fight afterwards, the adjustments can be made in the night. But we do a lot of, and television taught us to do this, and media and entertainment taught us to do this. We go back and we analyze, well, this, if he did this instead of this, and irrelevant. On this night, it, if when you see a fight, like if you ask Yoel Romero, well, what he would do anything to avoid, he would say that fight. If you ask him, 4 hours before the fight, 2 weeks before the fight, if you ask him today, he's, I don't know why I didn't, of course you don't know why. You expressed that fight freely. You didn't think, you didn't strategize, you didn't make calls and make reads. Those are things we say. And we say them because we kind of understand what it is we're saying. But what's really happening is a dynamic, a chaotic dynamic between two trained brains, between two series of algorithms locked into the gray matter of an individual, that when this happens, it causes it. An algorithm basically means if this, then that. So what fighters have done, and what any sort of high performance, high speed athlete has done, or anyone who operates in a flow state where cognitive thought is not a big part of it, free climbing or any of these things, flipping motorcycles upside down, these are if this then that. So over time, when you do this, I do that. When I do that, you do this. That's been programmed into us, and we allow it to happen. That the fight is the fight is the fight. If we understand that and we look at it with free of judgment, ignoring the consequences, and with a limited opinion as possible, it's looking for what is, what we usually find is, instead of speaking authoritatively about this happened and this happened because this guy did this and then that's a mistake, and next time if he doesn't do this, this will do that, that authority with which we speak is the biggest flaw. If instead we say this happened, but what about we don't know why this, but it led to that, but because of a lifetime of this is what you do. We're still on, despite my pleading that this is about something else, we're still on this repeated counter straight rights to the center of the forehead from a much shorter opponent with very, very short arms would disagree. Would disagree with what? I guess I missed part of your chat. Again, if that is, I don't know what that is in reference to, but all of that is, well, this is this because this is this, because short arms mean this, because straight punches mean that. None of those things are true. And even saying that, I know, causes a lot of cognitive strain and resistance and frustration. But all of the things we speak about, sorry, I just did it. Many of the things we speak about in absolutes are not at all absolute. And then people get freaked out in reference to Joanna not getting off the center. Yeah, again, you're talking about rules that are irrelevant to the conversation. And the reason we're doing it is because are you still there? Whoa, sorry about that. Wow. Uh, my apologies. The reason we're still doing it is because that's what we've learned to do, and we are doing what we see them do. Joe is the best commentator of ever, and we're speaking the way that Joe has commentated the sport, and all the other athletes are speaking the way he's done that. That's not the only way to speak, and it's a way to speak back when the day when people didn't understand, but we do understand now. So now we go back and we dispel these myths, because if we don't, then we live with them forever, and then we get to a further and further distance from reality. So at different points, we dispel these myths. Why are they myths? Why are these things myths? These things are myths because of limitations in language and time and knowledge. Because over time we learn different things. So there are myths. Always step outside on the. Thank you. 100%. You don't know more about fighting than I do. That's why I'm here. I don't, or I do. Oh, I don't know. Sorry. Uh, but that's why they're myths. So we always keep our front foot on the outside in Southpaw versus Orthodox. That's a myth, right? That's a total myth. It's just a strategic thing. Thank you, brother. I appreciate the push and the pull. It's very valuable. It's very helpful because what one of my goals right now is to find the things that we've said are the way that we've said them. We said them about because of the limitations of time, because of the structures of television, because of what people could handle when we said them. And but they became myths nonetheless, and they're not true. So a lot of the things that we say, well, whenever a guy throws a low kick, you throw a right hand. Why is that a myth? Because if whenever you throw a low kick, I throw a right hand, eventually you are ready to destroy me for throwing a right hand and you start setting me up. If you want me to throw a right hand, you do it by throwing a low kick. Anytime you know what's coming, you have the advantage. So if I throw a right hand, every time you throw a low kick, eventually I am knocked unconscious with a counter to my right hand because you elicited it from me on purpose in a moment. Right? So these are the myths, but these myths come this never move into the power hand of the opponent. Now, so a guy will be moving both ways in a fight because you must move both ways in a fight. And occasionally, in moving into the power side, he does get hit. Then we say, never move into the power side. Of course, you must move into the power side. Let's say that this way is the other way. If I don't move into the power side, so this is your power side. I'm moving over here. Sometimes I move over here. I move over here. The punch comes, and I get out of the way. Willow. If I only move this way, what happens? I only move one direction over and over and over. That can't be done. You'll just knock me out that way because I become predictable, right? So these are myths. All of these are myths. Keep this here, check this always. He's not checking kicks enough. Make sure that you use a lot of jabs. None of those things are real. Those things are temporary truths that become untrue when the other opponent knows it. So yeah, a little bit of bark in there from that one. So what's happening is very different than what we say is happening, and that's okay. For the surface level, somebody just pops on ESPN and they hear, never move into the power hand, always keep that front foot on the outside. If they know nothing about fighting, now they know something. But in the long run, those aren't true. So now we're propagating myths. And this is happening in news. This is happening in sport. This is happening in all these things. As we're saying something which is a pretty good novice truth for somebody, if it becomes the law, now that's not true. Now we have propagated myths. Now we have, caused a society where people are not really sure who should be trusted because people don't tell them the truth. Nobody's trying to lie to you when they say always keep your front foot on the outside. Nobody's trying to lie to you because when they say never move into the power hand, it's just what they can say in 10 seconds on a live broadcast, knowing that you know very little in a way that will work for you as you say it, but it is untrue. Then it becomes we think it's true, and then we start arguing. Well, this guy didn't move his head this way. This guy, and we start arguing with each other using untruths, right? We're using untruths. So my job is and the biggest problem comes now where you take somebody who is not a martial artist, say, but is a good television broadcaster and enjoys it. And if they're good at speaking with authority, now they're teaching all these people these untruths. They're saying, make sure you always do this, never do that. And they never fucking took a punch in the face in their life. They are parroting untruths that they believe to be true to the population who watches it, and now everyone thinks these things are true. Martial arts is a free form of expression. It isn't a bunch of rules. The rules are there when you know nothing to give you some structure, but as you become a true martial artist, almost all of them dissipate or are temporary. It works until you know it, and then it doesn't work, or are old, or return as like the best techniques are new or forgotten, because forgotten is new, right? If you didn't, it's new to you, or oh fuck, I forgot about that. Well, now you're unconscious, right? So this is an ever changing environment. It's an ecosystem. It's a living organism, and that's what it is. And that's what. And I don't want to. My life is short. I do not want to go in there and propagate these myths and just talk, be a sportscaster, and get my turn to say striker versus grappler in a stylistic matchup or knockout power in both hands. I don't. I don't want. I'm just not. I never was sitting around waiting for my turn to say that. I want to study it for real. Then I want to find out what's real about it. And then I want to, and then it's going to be hard because literally think of this, and you don't let it stress you. Again, you learn from the lessons of a fight like Izzy, but it's still weird when you would study something for 40 years. And in the course of that, you'll get to a point where you're like, oh shit, this thing that people think is true is very untrue. Then you'll talk about that. And then somebody who's never studied it at all, they don't have any specialized knowledge on it, heard that thing that you're now disagreeing with, or you're now disproving, and then they'll fight you on it. They're like, "No, bro, everybody knows right hand is a natural counter to a low kick." It's like, no, they don't. Well, yeah, everybody can know that because everybody heard it, but they don't. They've never done it. They don't know what it means, and they don't know what it means to change the dynamic of what you and I understand, and that a fighting is an ever-changing uh, little game of moving between knowledge and telling lies. And some of those lies are shit. When I throw a low kick, I just keep getting hit by the right hand. When really what you're doing is, yeah, I'm just waiting for the one right hand that I know you're going to throw, and I'm going to trap you. And that's one layer. There's 30 layers. I'm just giving you the top layer of why that's not true, right? So this is a very odd, and there's some dissonance to taking the route that I'm taking, but it's starting to really come together. The Bellator people encourage me to pursue these things. We did some really cool shit in LA that we're going to put out this week, talking about some of the different philosophical truths about fighting and about the journey that have been, uh, untruths have been created about them. And people think the untruths are true. That's the weird part about the world we're living in right now. All this people are yelling fake news at things. What they're not understanding is we're just learning so much more, but we're parroting the old information. So we know a lot of new things, a lot of front end exploration or understanding has been done, but then the interface, television is a big one. I work in TV at TSN, and a big thing I'm proud of here is that they're always trying to find different ways to be able to look at these things, because the old interfaces repeat things. They got stuck in parroting certain things. That's why football commentary sounds all the same. That's why everybody sounds like Joe Rogan, because Joe's brilliant and they parroted him. Joe's perspective is one brilliant martial artist perspective. But if you got 50 brilliant martial artists, they should all have entirely different perspectives. They should not all say, oh my God, it's a big right hand. Look at that beautiful low kick. He took him down. I'd like to see him get back up. Like, if you're just parroting that one brilliant guy, then we might as well just have Joe all the time. He's brilliant. What we want is you to say something totally different. I think Dom Cruz is pretty good at that. Dom looks outside of just the obvious. And the obvious is no longer true. That's the other thing. It's the obvious from a long time ago. The things we're saying. So I'm going to commentate tonight. If you want to watch it, you'll hear my different approach to it. I don't believe in the structures of old television. I don't believe in the structures of Fox or ESPN or whatever when I do commentary. I don't, it's old. It's old people, old thinking, reproducing old systems that are not modern or intelligent or different or provocative. Or my job isn't to say knockout power with both hands. My job is to enrich the viewing experience for the viewer. And that is not done only one way, no matter how fucking brilliant. And Joe's brilliant. I don't want anyone to ever get that, misunderstand me. But he's one brilliant guy. Over time, you should have 11 different degrees of brilliant people having 11 different perspectives, and then they'd all feed each other. But you don't. You have them all imitating Joe. And so you end up with one. It's also why Joe and I are friends, because he likes that we talk about different stuff and we see the world different. I fucking respect that guy so much. Saw him last week in doing his gig at the comedy store. Brought a buddy of mine, and he's such a fucking good guy. He's such and he did such a great job last night. He's such an inspiring guy. And I'm just fucking thrilled that I even know him. I just really, he changed my life. Joe's changed my life in many ways. Anyways, I got to book it. I got to go commentate. Please check out my Facebook page. I'll put it up on Twitter as well. But if you Google Prospect Fighting Toronto, you'll probably find it. You can find the live stream. And if you do, pop up on Twitter later and tell us, give us some feedback on the show. Thanks, guys. Holy fuck, it was 45 minutes. I thought I was coming here for 10 minutes. It's a real gift. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege to be able to hang with you guys. Thank you. Blackout. Enjoy the hostilities, my friends.